Hey everyone, Sycra here, and today I'm going to be doing a critique of one of the forum members over at the Sycra.net forums. Okay, so what we have here is a Minotaur guy, and he's just, I guess he's just looking intimidating while holding an axe. So the first thing I noticed is that he seemed to be off balance, and it's got this forward momentum, which is cool because it feels like he's going to come towards you. But really, when I look at it, it just feels like he's going to tip over. So the first thing I did is I'm just using the warp tool here. Not saying this is necessarily what you should do. I think this is a problem that you should fix in the drawing stage. But just, to give you a sense of maybe what you could have done differently. But again, this is one option. If you had done a bunch of thumbnails, and maybe you did, I'm not sure, but I think it would be cool to experiment with different positions on and like think about how this guy could be intimidating. Now what I'm doing is I'm fixing the chest because I noticed your chest, the whole area, the torso area feels very flat, or a little bit like he's, I don't know, it just doesn't, his body type is so bulky that I would think his chest is bigger, and you have to remember the ribcage has a lot of volume to it. Well, maybe not a lot, but it has volume to it. So especially when you add muscles on top of that, you're gonna get more of like a, I don't know, almost like a barrel chest going on. And then the other thing is I felt like the silhouette is quite weak in that you have this axe, and he's holding the axe, and he has horns and stuff, but if you just think of the silhouette, you don't actually see any of that. You maybe see like 2 points of the axe on the left side, so I thought it might be better to just open things up. And I was wondering why you hadn't done this before, and it felt a little bit cramped, like maybe you made the frame and you drew him within the frame, and then he had to fit. Even if you didn't do that, it has the feeling of that. So I made the canvas bigger so that you could actually have a silhouette of the axe and have that read. And then, like I'm fixing the arm now, there's just, I mean, it's not perfect, but there were a lot of anatomy mistakes and again, problems. So this isn't the first time I've talked about this, and it's probably not going to be the last time, but so much of the problems I see in paintings are drawings, because when I look at your work, at first glance it's really not that bad. I like the way you rendered the head. There's like some cool shadows, the colors are nice and they're working. Some of your line work is good. There's like the fist that's, I mean, his hands are both in fists, but the one that's holding near the blade, I think that's done pretty well. So it's like close but not quite right. And I mean, unfortunately, I'm looking at my own paint over and seeing issues with it, like the, oh wait, no, I think I fixed that later. Anyway, okay, never mind, I'm fixing it right now. I was going to talk about the strap going the wrong way, but no, I'm going to fix that. So you really have to think about the figure as a form, as something that has volume, and what are objects on it going to do. Think about your perspective, what's in front and what's behind. Because right now, look at your arms, right? Like, think about the shoulders and where they are. And I feel like the arm really doesn't make sense in your drawing in terms of like, wait, so the bicep's coming forward. I'm assuming that's a bicep, the big round object. But it's like it's coming forward, but then the shoulder pad is indicating that it goes back in space. So a lot of these problems can be solved by just simplifying the form, breaking it down into something much more manageable, like an oval or even just a mannequin shape. I like to use a beanie type shape, and I've talked about this shape before, like a bean with a center line down the middle and a horizontal line across, and that's going to help you see like, okay, what is the form of this? Because now, like, even though mine's not that great, you can see how it feels like, yes, there is a structure. You can kind of grab onto the Minotaur guy, right? At least his chest area. It's like, yeah, you can grab onto that. Whereas yours, it feels kind of flat. And this is the problem. It's kind of a disservice to all your polishing and rendering skills to have this weak in the drawing stage. And so the best thing I could say to you is to practice drawing a lot more. And when you're drawing, do things like thumbnails, get the gesture right, really pay attention to balance. And, you know, is your character leaning? Because let's say he was leaning forward, right? And he's being aggressive. There are other ways you could do that. You could actually push his body more forward. Maybe even the top half of his body is fine. You know, maybe, I mean, get the axe in a better silhouette. But then what you could do is, okay, so he's coming forward. Well, what's going to happen? What's his leg going to do? Maybe the leg, his left leg, I suppose, it's going to come forward to support that weight. Maybe the back leg or his right leg it goes into the back. So he's lunging forward. Like, you can think of those type of movements. Instead, I just made him sort of static in this pose. But that's something that really helps to deal with in the thumbnail stage. And then because you're drawing small and it's easy, you can play around with a lot more things and then really think about the silhouette. Really think of, how does this look if the whole thing was black and you're just viewing this guy from a distance? Would you be able to tell what he is? And something that does this really well is video games, because video games have characters in the background and you can instantly tell, if it's a good game anyway, well designed, you can tell what the enemy is just by looking at them in the distance. Now, something else I did is I just put some yellowish light behind him, creating the illusion of some kind of light source. And the reason I did that is because you've got this purple background, but then your Minotaur guy is purple as well. So it's like purple on purple, and I guess the horns make him stand out, but really his head is not a focal point. It's not like the centerpiece, because it's like, okay, look at his shoulder pad, and it's purple, his head's purple, and then the blade is purple, and all these things get lost in the background. The thing that actually draws my eye to it the most is probably his arm, like that bicep area is where I look, because it's got the most contrast. It's got this color against a purple, and it's a light against a dark. So by adding this yellowish tone behind his head, it's like, well, orangey, well, yellow is the complement to purple. So then having that behind his head is really going to make his head pop out and bring that to the foreground. And I would be wary of using the same color for your focal point in other places a lot, because by having more than one color, you're reducing the importance. And then here I just added some dust, maybe it's really badly done, but again, it's just an idea, like some blood splatter on his axe to show, like, yeah, he uses this thing. And now I'm just fixing the shoulder pad to make it, you know, move in the right perspective. So overall, what you're doing is good, but again, you know, really, really focus on your drawing. It's gonna help you a lot more if you think about drawing, you think about form, you think about structure, and don't just look at other artists and copy what they do.